You're listening to the Expert Edge podcast, brought to you by Find a Business Expert. I'm your host, Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist and expert in my field. In each episode, I chat to a different business expert about their business and what gives them the edge. Pam Rawlings is one of the owners of P2 HR. I had a chat to her about all things human resources and what it is that gives her the expert edge. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Pam.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Now, during this podcast, we're going to find out a bit more about you and your business and what it is that gives you the expert edge. So, first of all, Pam, I'd like you to travel back in time a bit to when you were at school. What were you like at school and what kind of subjects did you enjoy?
Blimey. It's a long time ago, but I was very compliant. I never once, I'm very proud to say, albeit I was probably seen as a bit of a nerd at the time, but I was never once had detention in all my school years. So I was very compliant. I wasn't a natural boffin or an academic, so I had to really, really study hard to come out with the grades that I came out with. And I just loved English language. For me, it's all about the spelling and the grammar and making sure you can speak with an accent, but speak properly.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
What I've always taught my kids, yeah.
Yes, I say it to my kids all the time.
Yeah, you can have the accent because you are from where you're from, but yeah, just say it properly.
Yes. So after school then, Pam, what did you go into? Did you go on a study after that?
I didn't actually, no. I didn't go to university until I was 40. So when I left school, because I studied so hard at school to get what I got to, I was absolutely fed up of studying and having to put in that hard work. And I decided to get a job rather than go to college or uni. So I went and became a secretary to a divorce lawyer. And probably it's at that point that I learned all about confidentiality from a very, very early age.
Yes.
Of how, certain things you don't repeat.
Yeah. Quite. So tell me about your current business and how that came about.
Right, current business. So we are a consultancy company that helps small to medium-sized organizations with any people-related matters. So anything literally from hiring and onboarding their staff through to exiting them if they need to get them out. So our clients don't usually have an HR person, and they come to us and we kind of really become an extension of their team. So it's anything from daily queries around somebody's sickness absence or somebody misbehaving or perhaps somebody's raised a grievance through to supporting, members of staff with mental health. And then we also get involved in quite a lot of projects with our clients. At the moment, we're doing an awful lot of line manager training, which is great as the managers then get upskilled and they're better at helping their own members of the team. Salary benchmarking, employee surveys, all those types of things really, that sometimes we have to act for the client and do the nasty disciplinaries and grievances that are quite tricky and possibly very sensitive. But yeah, it's all those types of what I would class as transactional HR things that we get involved with and just try and ease the load from our clients who aren't equipped either experience-wise or perhaps even with the time to be able to do it with themselves.
Yeah. And who are your clients and what kinds of businesses do you get involved with?
Any types of businesses, because for us, industry doesn't matter. It's because the law is the law. Employment law applies to everybody across the nation. And for us, then, it doesn't matter what industry you're in because the law still stays the same. It doesn't change per industry. And our clients vary. Our smallest one has got 5 employees and our biggest one's got 190.
Quite a range.
Quite a range. But I'd say probably the middle for little part is anywhere between 50 to 75, 100 is the size. And that's just a really nice size where they don't need an in-house HR person, but they need that in-house HR help. And that's where we become that extension of the team. Yeah.
So whereabouts are you based, Pam, and where are your clients?
We are, all 3 of us, because I've got 2 members of staff that work for us as well, and all 3 of us are based in the Bristol and surrounding areas. I would say probably about 80% of our clients are in the Bristol and the southwest. And then we've also got other ones dotted out as far down as Devon, over to London, over the bridge, and we've got quite a few in Wales, and a few up north. So, but majority of them are Bristol and southwest.
Yeah. So what was it that attracted you to this particular field of work? What is it that you love about HR?
I would say, years ago I used to work in recruitment, and when you work in recruitment, you have to know quite a bit about employment law.
Mm-hmm.
So when the owner of that business decided to retire and sell the business, I thought, no problem, I've got lots of transferable skills, I'll just move it across into HR. But soon discovered that you needed HR qualifications kind of to get anywhere. So in my first year, I went to college whilst I was working during the day, and I just loved the basics of HR. So after that, it was just when I decided then to go and do a postgrad degree, which is, as I said, what I did when I was 40. And it was that whole thing of, why do I do it? Because I loved not HR. HR overrides it all, of course, but it's people. I love people. I love working with businesses to try and find solutions that balances the needs, I suppose, of the business versus making sure you're looking after the employee. Because for me, it's important. People are your greatest asset, and you need to look after them. And for me, therefore, it's trying to find that solution that suits both sides of that. It keeps the client happy and keeps them achieving what they still want to achieve, but also make sure that the employee is well looked after.
Yeah, I can hear in your voice, Pam, that you're passionate about this. How long have you been running this business for now?
I set up P-Squared. So I worked in HR consultancy since 2015. And then 2 years ago, the company that I worked for decided to sell the HR arm of the business. And it was at that point in my absolute madness, I thought, you know what, let me go buy that business and see if I can carry on running it as a going concern. And 3 months later, we launched P-Squared HR. And it was absolute manic and, lots of sleepless nights and, absolute fraught with worry of will it, won't it, how are things going to go. But hey, I'm happy to say that, all the clients transferred across with us and the staff, and we kind of just picked up and carried on business as usual. We're just under a different name, really. And obviously some new clients have joined us since. And 2 years on, we're still going strong, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you could go back in time, Pam, what advice would you give to yourself when you were first starting out?
Oh, crikey. Well, I'm quite a perfectionist. I'm almost anal to that really. So at the time, I remember I wanted everything to be just 100% spot on. I had this image in my head that if it wasn't and we launched, people would look at you foolishly and think you weren't taking this whole business thing seriously. And the reality is that business is a moving feast. You don't lose sleep over some things that you can't control. And if you're waiting for other people to get back to you to set certain things up, hey, it'll be what it'll be. No one's died. So, just try and take the stress out of that. So I think it would be that whole thing of don't expect everything to be perfect on the day it goes.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice. Yeah. So have you got a couple of tips that you would like to pass on to new entrepreneurs? What have you learned?
Right. Okay. You only know what you know. I think that's important. It's I used to panic a bit about the fact that what if I don't know something and I get caught out by something. And I think, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of that, the only things you really need to know is what legally you need to, you're responsible for Companies House and HMRC. And don't worry, if you haven't paid HMRC, they will soon come knocking on your door. So it's one of those things that I tended to think, if I don't know something, how will I know?
Yeah.
How am I going to find out until it possibly is too late? And that isn't how it works. So that, people soon let you know when you owe something or need to do something or whatever the case is. And don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Because, people generally are nice people.
Yes.
Most people are. And I think most people genuinely want to help.
Yeah.
And but it's you asking for that help. And I think all of us find that really difficult, is actually turn around and asking somebody for help. So actually saying to them, do you know what, I could really do with a hand, trying to fill out this form or whatever it might look like. People will absolutely want to help you. And they'll soon let you know if they can't do it right now, but they could possibly do it in a few days' time or next week. But just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, very true. I think many of us are guilty of that, not putting our hands up and saying, I'm a bit stuck here.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I know you can Google things, can't you? You can Google how do I do this, but you'll spend hours and hours and hours. And of course, when you're first starting out your business, you haven't got hours and hours and hours spare. So it's about just saying to, does anybody know how to do this? And, it's amazing how many people came forth and helped me when we first started out. And were quite willing and happy to impart with their knowledge of what they knew to set me on the right path and at least get me, off the starting blocks, really. But it was amazing. amazing because people are genuinely kind.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
I found that too.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, then it's important to keep yourself organised, isn't it? Do you have any particular tools that you like to use to help you with that?
Ooh. I am a list person, I have to say. Me and my lists, I would be absolutely lost without a list. And I've always had lists, ever since I can remember. My mum used to always say to me, you organise your whole life by lists. But I think as I've got older and I've become a little bit more forgetful, and then as I became menopausal, and you have that menopausal brain fog where you forget everything, I would not have survived without a list. So I think from an organisation point of view, you don't need some fandangled system that's going to do everything for you, because a system is only as good as something you put into it.
Yes.
So a handwritten list is just as good and effective, as long as you follow the list, of course, as a brand new system that's going to do everything for you. So the organisation for me is literally about Rome wasn't built in a day. Make the list of everything that needs doing, and just mark things off the list as and when they're done.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because I run my life by lists too.
Good. I'm pleased. I'm so pleased. But they work, don't they?
They do.
Why reinvent the wheel? If it works, it works.
Yep. Yeah. I have to have it written down in front of me. Otherwise, if it's an electronic calendar or something, I'm not going to look at it.
No, absolutely. Unless something pings at me and slaps me around the mush.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. That's just no good to me. Yeah.
So if you weren't doing your current job, Pam, what job would you like to do instead?
Oh, you know what I would love to do? I would love to be a crime scene investigator. I've always loved the types of books and films of whodunit,
Yeah.
But more importantly, not just the drama behind it, it's how do you find out who did it?
Yeah.
How do you investigate and find out? And I'm always one of those people who rather annoyingly will start watching a film and then in an hour in going, it was him or it was her. And they're like, but why? Did you see that little thing on the floor when no one else saw? And they're like, what? And you have to rewind the film type thing. Yeah, I think the crime scene investigator has such an important part to play in society, because they're the ones who usually catch out the things that most people will generally miss, and I find their work fascinating.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you like books on that theme, do you? Agatha Christie and thrillers and that kind of thing?
I can never read a heavy thing. To me, the only time I read is when I need to wind down, and if I need to wind down, I certainly do not want to be reading anything that's heavy, that's going to have me, feeling quite low mood afterwards, or any of that sort of stuff. So for me, it's all just books about rubbish, as crime novels and stuff like that, where I can just read about, people trying to con other people in trying to do things, and any of those sorts of books, any whodunits, and I'm right there up somebody's street.
Yeah. So, is there a particular title you can recommend to me?
Oh, any crime novel. I couldn't think of. I mean, God, there's some authors that I read all the time, and it's one of those things, isn't it, that you get to a point where you're reading from some authors and you think, God, that's really good, and then you'll go read one of theirs and you think, oh, that was a little bit slow, so you'll swap again and move to another one that you really, really know. But Joe Nesbo, and I'm trying to think of the one I've currently got in the bathroom is a really good one. I can't think what the author's called, but it's one of those things that any book that you can pick up that is a murder mystery. Yeah. Because you can lose yourself in it, because it's not reality. You don't have to relate it to something that you heard of or saw or any of those sort of stuff. You can just get you lost in that fantasy almost of somebody else's world.
Yeah. So, Pam, if you were going to be cast away to a desert island, what's the one luxury you couldn't do without? Is it a novel or is it something else?
Actually, soaking in a bath once a week. That's the one time I set aside myself, an hour and a half on a Friday night, just soak in the bath, let the troubles of the week just go out the window and read my book when I'm in the bath. So if I didn't have a bath, and like I said, I only do it once a week. I don't obviously not only bath once a week. I shower in between, obviously, but just that soak in the bath where everything else can just wait.
Yeah,
it can just everybody, and woe be told somebody who knocks on the door and asks something when I'm in the bath. It's like, bugger off until I'm finished, right?
Leave Pam alone.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I should have a do not disturb sign on the door, shouldn't I? Yeah, I'd say that, soaking in a bath, yeah.
Okay, so what would you say is the best thing that you've ever done outside of work, Pam?
Oh, I I think raising my daughter. She turned 18 this year, and I think we've raised her to be a very confident young woman with impeccable manners and just the ability to talk to anyone in the room.
Yeah.
Quite often when you come across teenagers at that age, they're quite sulky, or they don't look up from their phones or their iPads. And we've kind of raised her to actually, what if somebody walks in the door, you put your phone down and you stop and you say hello and ask them how they are and find out about them, because you have to be sociable.
Yeah.
You can't always have your head stuck into one of those electronic devices.
Yes.
And she's turned out absolutely incredible. I think it's, as a parent, you don't make, they don't come with a manual, do they?
No, sadly.
Good if they did. So you do make it up every day as you go. And so when she says or does something that I've been banging the drum on for years and years, oh my God, do I then punch the air thinking, finally, it's got through. And I'm starting to see that now that she's getting to the stage where, she confidently gets up and speaks to anybody about really good things as well, not just waffle. And she's got opinions and about politics and the news. And then I'm punching the air, because I think, right, finally, it's starting to pay off.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think that doesn't compare to anything else, really. It's because I suppose because it takes such a long time to do as well.
Yes.
That 18 years has been well invested, you know what I mean? Whereas other things that you may have achieved, I suppose, are quite short term, aren't they? Whereas this obviously is the long term investment.
Yeah. So, okay, back to work then. What's the best project you've worked on at work?
The best one? I don't think it could be a singular project. So I think with the work that we do, a lot of it is repetitive, but a lot of it is also quite good. What do I get possibly the most job satisfaction from? I would say is probably line manager training. Mm-hmm. Because, when you're standing there and you're training managers on how to do this or how to do that, I always start my training off by saying to everybody, look, what's important for me here today is that you understand what we're discussing. Yeah. And if you don't understand, please jump in and ask all sorts of questions. Yeah. And when they start asking those questions and you realize perhaps how you thought phrasing it this way, they'd all perfectly get, and you realize that actually they don't, because you phrased it in one way or another. And then you start discussing it and talking it through, and then you can actually physically see the penny drop when they start to get it. For me, that just gives me a huge job satisfaction, because I think because we are people, and especially obviously, working in HR, when managers get it and they get the why behind why they are asked to do what they do. It doesn't matter if they are having training on, I don't know, how to performance manage somebody or whatever the case is, and they always think, oh, God, another thing I've got to learn. When they understand the why behind it, which is what we train them on, it just, that penny drops, and you can just see the light goes on, and all of a sudden they start to realize why it's needed and why this will help them truly be the best of who they are. And then the knock-on effect of that is that they then help their staff. Yeah. So I would have said probably that is the best for job satisfaction.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the feedback you get from your clients. What kind of difference have you made to people?
Oh, I think the one that sticks out with me the most is I remember a client's daughter was really, really poorly in hospital, and he was in the hospital with her, and he phoned me up from her hospital bedside and said he's got this employee that's, really causing him a headache, shall we say, and he needed to send some stuff to her, did that, and he was waffling off, but you could tell he was unnerved, because he was by his really poorly child's bedside. And I said to him, look, I'll tell you what, just text me her number, I'll phone her for you, I'll deal with it. If I need anything from you, I'll come back to you. Yeah. But please, just spend your time with your daughter, and I'll contact you if I get stuck. And over the years, he has mentioned that to me time and time again, with the fact that I took his headache away. I just dealt with it, rang with it, hoped and prayed it was the best thing I could do for him as the company. And even 10 years on, he left us last year, actually, because he sold his company. But even at that final meeting, when I phoned him to say goodbye, he raised it again. So for me, the fact that helped, that all I wanted to do was help him, but the fact that help held such a deep-rooted gratitude for him, I think is probably one of the best bits of feedback I've ever received, I think.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Is there something, Pam, about your industry that people don't understand that you wish they did?
I think it's a lot of people, if you mention the word HR, human resources, a lot of people will say, oh, God, it's the Grim Reaper. They're here to sack you or whatever the case is. And I think for me, it's about so much more. We spend so much time helping businesses and people in a good way more than we do firing them. Don't be wrong, of course, there is some firing that goes on there because that's part of the nature of what we do. But helping them more and helping them to understand and helping them how to support their people and helping them, what they need to do to support those people is for me far more reaching and people less understand of because they think HR is the Grim Reaper. So for me, it's back to that thing that I said earlier about, employees are their best assets. And therefore, for me, it makes absolute commercial sense to do right by their people most of the time. And that's what we aim to help them with.
Yeah.
And it's people trying to understand that HR are there to help. They're not just there to fire.
Yeah. My husband always jokes that HR should stand for human remains.
Yeah, you walk in the building, who's left? Yeah. And that's the thing. We have a really, really bad reputation, don't we? If you work in HR. And of course, some people are, really get really nervous if you walk in. But it's that whole thing about actually sometimes we are just there to help people.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of good. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have to fire people as well. But, that's the nature of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, Pam, a meteor is hurtling towards your house. It's going to hit you in a few minutes. What's the one thing you're going to rush to save?
Oh, my family.
Of course.
Yeah. It'd be horrible if I didn't say the family, wouldn't it? I love the dog, thanks. No, 100% family. I'm family first and foremost. Yeah.
Family and dog. Dog's allowed
and,
to.
Well, yeah, hopefully about it. Yeah. He's part of the family, I suppose. Yeah.
What would you like to be engraved on your gravestone, Pam?
Oh, she loved and she laughed.
Yeah.
And both to the same extremes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I think that about sums it up.
So my last but one question, Pam, what is it that gives you the expert edge?
I would say it's probably the years of, how can I put it, experience pragmatism. Employment law is employment law. There's no getting around that. The law is quite cut and dried on something like that. But we try and find solutions that aren't in the textbook. They aren't in the law. We try and find ways and means that clients and their employees can get on and work happily together. So our way is to try and find that solution, but then tell the client, this is the legal and the best practice way. This is possibly a different solution. And then we leave it to them to make that choice, because sometimes they need to make those commercial decisions which may or may not be, the legal and the best practice way. And I think that pragmatism of doing that for clients is probably what just gives us that slight edge on other competitors.
Yeah. So my final question then, Pam, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best place for them to find you?
They can, probably the quickest way would be on our website. So p2hr.co.uk, and all of our contact numbers are on there. So emails and contact numbers are on there, and that'd be the easiest way they can get through to us. And yes, please do, because we would love to help. We would love to help anybody who needs anything people related. We can help with.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for being my expert guest today, Pam. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know one of our business experts. If you'd like to discover more of the experts in our community, visit findabusinessexpert.com. And if you'd like to join us as an expert in your field, you can apply via the website. To help this podcast reach more business experts, please subscribe, rate and review.